Imagine that you are born into a small corner of this vast, vast world with all the potential and determination to become exactly who you want to be. Imagine how hard it was to utter your first word, mama, or if you were a weird kid, egg. For a lot of us, those milestones happen, but for some people, these milestones can never be achieved, and that's because of something called autism. Hi, my name is Sarah, and I did my 20 time project on helping others understand autism through my own storytelling. So, my little sister, who is 14 years old, has autism, and she was the inspiration for this project for me. But also, just looking at US statistics, Autism Speaks estimates that today about 1 in 59 kids in the United States alone are born with some form of autism. And it just shows how prevalent of a disorder this is in the US and how necessary it is for us to sympathize and further understand this in order to better help the people around us. And so what I did, as I said before, was I started writing stories for my project for others to understand. I wrote stories about my experiences with my little sister who had autism and how she grew up and essentially how I kind of dealt with it. And so when I started writing, at first, this comic sums up exactly how I thought about writing stories. But then slowly I learned that writing does not grow on trees, and it is actually very, very hard to tell a proper story. So I chose to do storytelling because I really like English and I love writing. But as I was writing, I found that instead of writing one story per 20 time session, I'd write a paragraph and then I'd delete it and I'd rewrite it. Because I felt like I kept asking myself, can other people sympathize with this? Can other people understand this? Because I've grown up with it all my life, but other people might not understand. So, to kind of introduce to you what autism is, if you don't really know, it's essentially classified as a social developmental disorder that prevents people from communicating, socializing, and forming relationships like we do. And autism can be characterized by people who essentially have issues speaking or do random repetitive movements with their hands or don't make direct eye contact with you when you're speaking. But autism can also be classified by people who have extraordinary abilities. So, for example, Albert Einstein. Autism is not just one disorder per se, but it's rather a spectrum. So it ranges from ASD or Asperger's to intense autism, which is what my sister has. So Albert Einstein would have mild Asperger's. Some people say that Abraham Lincoln had mild Asperger's, or Stephen Hawking, or Christopher Boone, if you read The Curious Incident of a Dog in the Nighttime. And basically there's this range of autism, and which is why so many people around us, when we look at them, they might not have autism, but if they have a tiny little social impediment, they might be somewhere on the spectrum. And so as I continued this project, I realized that this isn't exactly just for other people, but it was also more for me to understand and realize that it's okay and it's a normal thing for me to go through to have to experience having a sister with autism, because so many other people I realized around me are dealing with similar, I guess I'd say, issues around them, because autism is such a prevalent issue. So I definitely do hope to continue this throughout my life and not just now. And so I wanted to tell you part of a story that I wrote, and I named it My Sister is a Genius. And so, as I told you guys, my sister is on the extreme autism side of the spectrum, so she is definitely not like mathematically smart or anything. In fact, she can't even speak because she's 14. She's still learning how to write her name in lowercase letters. She doesn't know simple addition. But I've realized that as her sister, she really is a genius in different ways. And this is how I realized it. It's because she acts dumb. And like as a normal person, we'd look at her and we'd say, oh, she can't talk, she can't make eye contact with me, she can't interact with me. So we assume that she doesn't understand us or she doesn't know how to do things. But my sister secretly knows how to do everything, understands everything we say, Chinese and English, but she pretends like she doesn't to get out of doing work. For example, she knows that I know that she understands everything. But then my mother, she bullies because my mother is always sympathetic and always thinks that my sister shouldn't have to understand all these things because she has an impediment. So for example, when my mother will tell her, like, or I'll tell my sister, hey Steph, can you turn on the second light to the right on that switch over there? And she'll go do it because she understands me. And then my mom will tell her, hey Steph, can you pick me up that bowl from the table? The bowl, it's right there. And she'll be like, is it this? And then she'll look at something else and be like, is it this? And my mom will be like, nope. But she'll pretend like she doesn't understand because she wants my mom to think that she doesn't understand more than she does. And then I'll be like, Steph, the bowl. And she'll be like, oh, okay. So she listens to me because she knows. And then another time, you know those toothbrushes, those electric toothbrushes that have like 4 settings, like they beep 4 times for each section of your mouth? So when I'm watching her brush her teeth, she knows when to switch sections, and she hears those beeps, and she doesn't stop until all the beeps are over. And then when our nanny watches her, she stops after 1 beep, and then she pretends like she doesn't know that there are more beeps. And then she rinses off her toothbrush, and then my nanny is like, wait, there are more beeps. And she's like, no, I don't care. So she pretends like she doesn't know, but she really does know. And in that way, I think that she's really, really smart. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, I wrote it on like a doc and I pasted like a few of them onto my blog, the 20 Time blog.
Do you know when you realized your sister was autistic?
We went to the, so like for me, like, because I was first born, right, so I started talking when I was 1, and so my mom like thought that was normal, right, and so when we had my sister, when she was 3 years old, she still wasn't talking, so we took her to the doctor, and then the doctor did some, like, I guess, eye tests on her, because there's like a test now that you can do that tracks eye movement and like eye contact, and because people with autism usually don't focus for a very long time, their eyes kind of scatter. That's how we knew.
You know, how those the doctors show how the 1 in 59 children who have versus like 1 in 166 and keeps like increasing the number? What do you think that is?
So autism is like, we don't really know what causes it, but we know that it's both genetic and environmental, but like from the graph, it's like pretty clear that part of it is definitely genetic, and which is why there's so much money being poured into this organization called Autism Speaks, which is like the main organizer for autism research and everything, but we still haven't figured out exactly what causes it. So yeah.
What if it is believed that somebody's not sure, or is it more something that they just want to pursue?
You know, I've actually seen a few like TED Talks about people who used to have autism but then were cured. I met up with an author one time, and he wrote a book on autism, and he used to be autistic mildly autistic. And then he said that because his parents put him through like these treatments, like for example, my sister does speech therapy right now, and then she also does playroom treatments, which is like the main thing for most autistic kids. He was essentially cured in a way. Like, you know, Temple Grandin, if you've like seen that movie or read the book, people say that she was like cured from autism, right? But she still has a little bit of like a social impediment. It's just that now she's able to connect with others more.